Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another podcast. This is on YouTube, right? And so if you're watching right here, there's actually a new tab on YouTube for a podcast. This is actually the first one. And obviously you can tell I'm not by myself today. This is my lovely wife, Micah Carpenter.
Hello.
And today we're talking about 5 things to look for in a spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe you're dating, maybe there's someone that you're in a relationship with and you're thinking about maybe this could be the one, but I need some advice to make certain before I, propose and get on a knee and ask this person to marry me. So, we've been married for 3 years, so we're not experts by any means, but there are some things that we have learned over these 3 years that we'd like to help you with. So, or even if you're a parent and, your son, daughter has come up and said, hey, what are some things to look for in a spouse? Maybe this can help you too as a parent to have that conversation with your children. So we haven't talked, we haven't discussed. She picked her 5, I picked my 5, and we're just going to roll with this and see where it goes. So the first one I know for sure we're going to have the same because we are Christians, we are believers. And so I know what her number 1 is, but my number 1 is having God first in every area of your life. Not just being a churchgoer, but having God first in every single area of your life. Making Him number 1 in every day, Monday through Sunday, making sure that He is the number 1 in every decision that you make. So her number 1, I know what it's going to be.
Yeah, it's of course love the Lord and put Him first. And I just go ahead and I echo everything that you've already talked about because it's so true. And I think when you're looking for, a spouse and the things that you want to look like into a spouse and all of that, you can really tell someone who truly does love the Lord and who truly does put the Lord first as the fruit that they produce. It's based off of the fruit because I believe that your fruit will speak a lot louder than the words that you could ever say.
Yeah.
I could tell Isaac that I love the Lord and I put Him first every day of my life, but it's not my words that will convince him, but it's the fruit that he sees.
That's so good.
That I truly do love the Lord and I put Him first. So
yeah, the old saying of the fruit is determined by the root.
Yeah.
You can only fake something for so long.
Yeah.
And so you can only fake your relationship with the Lord or fake your walk with the Lord for so long, but at some point there comes a time in life, and a lot of times it happens to be the moments when it's the hardest or there's a tragedy in life. You can tell at that point really where their root's at and by what their fruit. And so that's a great point. You want to see where somebody's at and how serious they are with the Lord. Look on their fruit. You can tell an apple tree is an apple tree by what? The fruit on the tree. Yeah. So
that's good.
If you're wanting to know if they're truly sold out, look at the fruit. So tell us what your number 2 is.
Okay, so my number 2 would have to be just being best friends. I know for Isaac and I, when we started dating, we, of course, over time in our relationship, we became best friends.
Yeah.
But I think it helped so much once we got married because it was never awkward. It wasn't, okay, now that we're married, we're with each other every single day. Now is the time to become best friends, which I think it helped our marriage so much and it made our marriage so much fun because we were already best friends before we got married.
Yeah.
And so I like to tell everybody that, any of my girlfriends that I've talked to or the younger women that, I have been able to mentor and just pour into, and we've been on this topic, I always say that marriage is so much fun when your spouse is also your best friend.
I agree.
It's not just you're my spouse, but you're also my best friend. You know everything about me.
The
but
good,
I also,
bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, and I know everything about you.
Yeah.
And I always tell them, and I always make a joke that, when you marry your best friend, it's like a sleepover for the rest of your life. It's so much fun, but you have to be, I feel, just become best friends before you get married because I think it just sets everything else up for success and it makes just everything so much fun.
Yeah, and I mentioned the good, bad, and the ugly. It's not like I'm trying to figure you out as I'm married to you.
Yeah.
I know everything about you before I even proposed.
Yeah.
Because even in the proposal, I didn't want to, get on a knee and ask her to marry me and then be like, oh, this happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so all of those things need to, we need to know the good, bad, and the ugly
Mm-hmm.
before that. And being best friends, you find that out. And,
Mm-hmm.
and still today, she's my best friend. I don't know if she'd say that about me, but she's still
Of course I would.
she's still my best friend. So
Yeah.
it's something that, because we've been together for 7 years, and
Mm-hmm.
out of those 7 years, 3 were married. So
Yeah.
4 of those years we were just talking, dating, engaged. And so,
Getting to know each other.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And so it was a great time. And it helped when we got married, because it wasn't like the first day we were married, I was like, I gotta figure this woman out. Like, what is she like?
Yeah.
What has she gone through? Who is she? I knew all that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, extremely important.
Yeah.
My number 2 is compatibility. Like, I think that, okay, so we're pastors,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been pastors since January, so 8 months.
Yeah.
9 months now. It's
Mm-hmm.
September already.
That's crazy.
And so, beyond even like spiritual things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, if one person in the relationship is the one that's just like, oh, there's money, let's just blow it. The other
Yeah.
person's like, no, we need to save, we need to be strict, we need to save money. That ain't going to work out. Or you've got one person that's like extremely lazy, and the other person's a hard worker. That won't work out.
Yeah.
Let's get another example of, let's say, one person is, I want to, after I graduate college, I want to move here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, nope, we're staying here. That won't work out. Like, if when we got married, I was like, babe, we're staying here, we're not moving. And if you were like, no, I want to move to California to pursue this job, obviously that's not going to work out. So all the way down to the small, minute details, like, okay, let's say I wanted 3 or 4 children, but she didn't want any.
Yeah.
That's not going to work out. And so there has to be an agreement on the bigger decisions. And I'm not saying like you have to agree on everything, right? There's hobbies and things that she's enjoyed that I will never participate in, and vice versa. And that's just what, it's not oh Lord, I've got to make everything has to be the same, and we always have to do things that's not the case. And so, but for the bigger things like, beliefs, culture, moral, how do you want to raise your children? That's a big one. Where do you want to live? Goals in life. For example, if I had this goal to be in ministry and to be a pastor, and she's like, I don't want anything to do with church, that ain't going to work out. And so I think that there has to be agreement on the bigger things.
Yeah. So I actually have 4. I'm just going to go right into the third point for me, because I actually have having the same values.
Look at
so that goes just right with what you were saying.
Look at that.
Because and I think it's so important to make sure that you both are just basically on the same page.
Yeah.
Before Isaac and I got married, we knew like what our vision was, what our goals were, just everything, our dreams.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. And so
you can't be afraid to have those conversations.
Exactly. And so we knew how many kids we wanted. We already had the names for our children picked out. Like, we just had everything. And I think that helps so much for when you get married, because, when you get married, it's not trying to, okay, let's sit down and figure out all of this. It's, well, we already know, so let's just enjoy being married now. We don't have to work through all of the hard stuff or the things that no one wants to talk about now. It's already been talked about.
Yeah.
And just, the same values in this sense. I know so many people who have gone through this or have almost gone through this. But in the sense of, what do you believe in? Of course, our church is non-denominational Pentecostals. But just if, for example, if Isaac believes something, whatever.
Like if I was Catholic.
Yeah, like Baptist, whatever.
Yeah, it ain't gonna work out.
Yeah, it would never work out, because I believe something, and I'm set in my ways of, well, this is what I believe in. This is the religion that I'm in. And he's in something that's completely different,
opposite,
that doesn't believe in the things that I believe in. It will never work between us. And instantly, once you get married, you are already divided, and you are
That's
already
so
a
good.
divided household, because, when you get married, you become one.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like for example, if you believe in two different things and in two different, beliefs or religions, whatever you want to call it, you are already starting off divided. Because you're not together as one.
Yeah, there's no unity there.
Exactly. And no matter how much I try to change him and I try to really convince him in this is what we're supposed to believe in, this is the life we're supposed to live, it will never work.
No.
And I will always feel defeated and like I'm always hitting a brick wall because it's something that he has to want to change for himself. No matter
Absolutely.
how much I want to try and change him and convince him that this is the way to live, we will get nowhere and we will honestly start pushing each other farther apart.
Yeah.
But it's something that he would have to want to change. It's not something that I can do, but it's something that he has to do. And so I just feel like it's so important before you get married and to look, into that person that you're dating, and, you start to get to really know them, to make sure that your values and morals, it just all lines up. So that way it sets you up for a successful and a healthy marriage in the future.
Yeah, that's so true. And it's even down to the smallest things. The biggest things and smallest things you have to agree on. So you're saying, well, how do I know that? You've got to have those conversations.
Absolutely.
Sit down, be honest, and ask those questions. Maybe you and the person that you're in a relationship with, you say, hey, let's have a conversation on all of these things, and you write those things down. How many children? Where do you want to live? What do you want to do in life? What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? So that way, you have that conversation and you get a look and see, because let me say it like this: there are some things that you can, maybe potentially work around some smaller things, but there are non-negotiables. Meaning, like, no matter what you think, this topic, this belief that I have is not negotiable. This is 100%, and those are the conversations you need to have. So, that's our number 2. Well, that was your number 3, right?
Yeah, that was my number 3.
So my number 3 is shared responsibility, in the sense of there needs to be clear communication on who's doing what in this marriage. Like, for example, this is not her at all. I'm just using this as an illustration. Let's say she's the kind of person to where, she doesn't do anything, and I'm doing it all. Like, house isn't clean, the dishes aren't done, laundry's not done, the baby's never taken care of, because we do have a 2-year-old, and all of these things at the house. She's a stay-at-home mom on top of being a pastor's wife, so all of these things aren't done, and I come home or whatever the case may be, and it's just crazy, and all of a sudden all that more responsibility is on me. So there has to be a shared responsibility of he does this, she does this, and that's what makes the family run.
Yeah.
That's what makes the house run, because I don't care if you think you're Superman or you think you're Superwoman.
Yeah.
The man can't do it all, woman can't do it all.
Right.
That's why God put 2 together, right? And so there has to be a shared responsibility, and it's not like, okay, let's just say her job or her duty is to do the dishes every night, okay? That doesn't mean if there's a night to where maybe she's sick, I'm like, I'm not doing the dishes tonight, because that's her
right.
duty. No, it's a shared responsibility. So, I'm doing the dishes that night, or vice versa. Like, let's say today I had to make some ministry calls to reach out or book a hotel. Like this weekend we have a guest speaker coming in. Like, let's say it was my duty to book a hotel, but let's say we needed to do it today. I got really busy and am going to get home late from doing ministry stuff. And she's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and book that hotel. It's not that, he's slacking and look what I'm going to have to do. It's just, it needs done.
It's just teamwork.
Right, exactly.
That's really all it is. And I just keep hearing the phrase that you always hear, all the time is there's no I in team.
Yeah.
It truly is just a teamwork. What you are not able to do, if I'm able to, why don't I just go ahead and pick that up so you don't have to worry about it?
Exactly.
And so, like Isaac said, just kind of briefly, he talked about, I'm a stay-at-home mom. That is my number one priority, is being a wife and a mother first. If anyone who knows me, you know that those are my top two priorities,
Yes.
is being a wife and a mother. And so...
And we had that conversation
Yes.
when we got married. So
Yeah.
it wasn't like... And I'm saying this because, like, that's one of the conversations you need to have.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like we got married and she's like, oh, by the way, I didn't tell you this. I want to be a stay-at-home mom. And I'm
Yeah.
I knew that going into it. I knew that before we were even engaged. I knew
Mhm.
that. So it wasn't
Yeah.
a surprise. But.
Yeah. But, so, in doing that, he, of course, we're full-time. We get
Yeah.
paid to be pastors, and we're so thankful for that. But he basically is the one who, let's be honest, brings the paycheck home.
Yeah.
And so since he does that, he, puts all of the hours and all of his time and dedicates so much into the church and just, making it the way that the Lord has called us to, make this church and all of that. It's my responsibility to make sure the home is taken care of, to make sure that Easton is cared for. Now, that doesn't mean, like he said, I have to do everything and I'm supposed to do everything.
Right.
There has been, just like today, I went and I went to the salon and I got a few things done today. And while I was gone for the, 3.5 hours,
Something
3 to
like
4
that, yeah.
hours, I come home and he surprised me with the whole house clean. He got all the dishes done, wiped the countertops, vacuumed our floor. He cleaned out our garage that I didn't even know about until I got home, and it really freaked me out for a second.
So
but
we just moved,
3
3 months ago? So
Yeah.
you know how it is when you move. Like, the garage is, where does this go? I don't know, the garage.
Yeah, literally. We just kind of threw everything. It was like
Yeah.
a storage unit, basically. And so we could just fit our car in perfectly. It was like a little glove. It was just able to slide right in. But, he picked that up, and I never asked him. I never guilt-tripped him into doing it. He just... And I think that's also just in serving one another, too, which could be a whole other little rabbit trail we could go on, but I won't go there today.
Maybe that's another podcast.
But yeah, so it's just in that,
The shared responsibility piece. Like,
yeah,
when she was gone, it wasn't like I sat here and
Yeah.
saw that the dishes needed to be done, and I wasn't like, she's out
that's
having
her job.
She's out having fun.
Yeah,
She's out doing, these things, and I'm just going to let this sit here because that's her job.
yeah,
That's what she's supposed to do. No,
yeah,
I had some free time. She's gone. So we did the dishes, and Easton, in air quotes, helped me. At least he thought he was.
Yeah.
So he helped me unload the dishwasher and do those things. And so, it's shared responsibility. It's all
Yeah.
teamwork. It's not, that's her duty, that's his duty, okay? Life happens, and there may be some days where I've got to pick up on her end, and there's been days she's had to pick up on my end. Life happens.
Yeah.
Everybody has down days or days where, I need to sleep in today. I need a little bit of extra rest. Life happens.
There was actually, real quick, there was an example I heard of, just so crazy you said that, a few days ago, maybe a week ago, and it was this woman, and, she's married, has about 3 or 4 kids herself, and she said, you always hear of this saying that I need to be 100 and you need to be 100.
Yeah.
When honestly...
You told me this. It was
yeah,
really good.
when honestly that's not the case. As much as I would love to be at 100, there are days where I'm not. I'm at a 20 and he's at an 80.
Yeah.
And on the days that I'm at 20, he sees and recognizes that. And without me having to beg him or anything, he just notices, you know what, she's just having a down day. She can't give her 100 today. So I'm going to pick up that 20% and, fill in that gap for her. And it's in that partnership, and it's just in serving one another and having the, the shared responsibility. But it's just, I loved that when she said that, because as I'm a perfectionist at heart, and I don't really like to admit it, but I really am. I just love, that's a whole other rabbit trail that I could go on.
Reel it in.
But, so when I heard that, I just thought it was so good, and it's just so eye-opening, because literally just yesterday I was not at 100. I just had kind of like a rough day. And he was so sweet, and he just picked up right where I wasn't able to give. He just picked that up for me. And then the day that, whenever he has a rough day and he's not going to be at 100, that's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay with that, because I can just swoop in and pick up that percentage that he's not able to give. So, and I saw that, and I just thought that was such a good example, really good. And so eye-opening as well.
Yeah, and don't guilt trip the person. Like, okay, so yesterday she was having a 20% day.
Yeah.
Where I was the 80%. I wasn't like, oh my goodness, like here I am doing all this other stuff because you're having a down day. Like, you don't do that. Just pick it up, do what needs to be done, and let's all be adults. So that's number 3. Did I share that? I shared that first, right? Okay, so I'll let you share your 4th one, and then I'll go.
So I love this one, and it is a good parent.
Wow.
You don't really think of it.
That's really good.
But when I, started to date Isaac, and I was showing interest in being with him, my biggest thing, I've always wanted to be a mother. If I could, I would have all the kids in the world, because we won't, I promise we won't, but all the grandparents.
We're going to have more, but
yes, all the grandparents can take a breath and be relieved. We won't bankrupt you or anything with all the babies, but I always wanted to be a mother, and that's just my nature. A lot of people know me as just having that motherly nature to anyone. I don't care how old you are. Yep. And so when I was getting to know Isaac, and we started to, dating, and then the question started talking about, future children, and marriage, I had to reflect on, is he going to be a good parent? Because
it's so good, babe.
just because I married Isaac for his looks, and what we have the same what we have the same values in and stuff, all of that is great, and we talked about that, but you are also how can I say this? I am picking out my child's father, per se.
That's really good.
And so, who I picked to have children with, I just picked to become their father as well. And you want to make sure that this person, of course, loves children. Now, they don't have to be crazy and, loving kids all the time and whatever, but just know that they're going to be good parents, because there are some people who they just don't want to be a parent. They don't want to have kids, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. There's nothing wrong with that if you don't want to have children. But if I did not know that until after I married him, it would have never worked out, because I wanted children. And, I want multiple children. And if he didn't want any children, then
wouldn't have worked out.
It would have never worked out. And he's such a good dad. He always gives himself such a hard time for how he parents and stuff, but he truly is such a good father. And I'm thankful that, I chose him, because he set such an amazing example for Easton. And when Easton gets older and, is a teenager and stuff, I know that he has such a great role model and such a great figure in how to become a true man and a man of God and all of that. And so when you are looking for a spouse, look at them as in the sense of, how will they be when we have children?
That's so good.
Will they take care of my child in the way that I want to tend to them and I want to care for them? So I just had to mention that one too.
Yeah, I that's a really good one. That wasn't my 4th one, but to piggyback off what she's saying, they can be a good husband and be good
Yeah.
wife, but be a horrible parent.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, like, and if you're wanting children, them being a good parent should be really high up there, because if they're not, you're going to have double the job.
Yeah.
Because if they're not a good parent, you're going to have to be mom and dad. And so that's really good. But my number 4 is proven trust. You're like, well, of course, but trust is something that has to be earned, obviously. But I think to marry someone, it has to already be proven before you ask them to be, your wife. Or, you're the wife and saying yes to them being your husband. Well, what do you mean by that? Simply like, when I ask her to be my wife and to marry her, I already trusted her up until that moment. It wasn't like, okay, let me ask her to marry me, and then I'm going to begin to build trust with her. No, she had already had a proven track record up to that point through 4 years of dating, of different scenarios, or, I confided in her and she didn't break that trust.
Yeah.
Because, let's be honest, if I confide in her, even something down there like, hey, I'm dealing with this, I'm struggling with this, and she goes and tells her friends, if she can do that without us being married, she's going to still do that being married.
Yeah.
And so there has to be a proven track record of, I can trust you on both ends. Because if you already have that going into marriage, it makes things a whole lot easier, because you feel like you can be more transparent, you can be more open, you can be more vulnerable. Whereas if I just don't even know how somebody could marry someone without trusting them, without, it can't just be like, okay, I trust her. No, it has to be proven. Like, here's the scenarios. Here's the times that, she could have broken trust, or he could have broken trust, and it didn't happen because, there was a proven track record of different scenarios, whether it was you confided in them or, one thing that really breaks trust nowadays is, okay, let's say I did something crazy in my past, and I confide in her and say I'm dealing with this, or it's just as simple as, we're getting married, she needs to know what I did or where I've been through.
Yeah.
And I confide this into her, and not a lot of people know about it. And then she goes, to her girlfriends, like, can you believe he did this? Can you believe that? And then next thing you know, like, okay, what would make me want to confide in her again? So there has to be a proven track record of trust.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I like that one too.
So that, I don't know. But
also when it comes to trusting, it's, all of that too, yes, and being open and transparent in that sense of trust. But it's also in trusting of, I'm trusting you, and I put all my trust in you to take care of our household and to protect me.
That's good, yeah.
And
children.
Yeah, you are, I put trust in you to protect me and our son, and I'm putting trust in you to provide for us. So that's also, a different way of trust too, is can you trust this person to truly, care for you and to take care of you and protect you and provide for you into the way that you thought as well.
Yeah, trust is something that's extremely important.
It can be a pretty big topic once you really start tearing it apart.
So don't wait to try to trust someone after they've already, proposed, or after you've already said yes to the proposal. But there must be a proven track record long before that point. So
that's right.
All right, just give us your last one.
Okay, so my last one, you kind of said it a little bit, like earlier, but for me, it's a hard worker. You have to be a hard worker in the sense, and you said it a little bit ago about, one of us is lazy and one of us is a hard worker. It just doesn't go well together, because if you are working and you're sweating your butt off and you're doing all of this stuff, and then I'm over here just like a little couch potato is what I call it, just being a couch potato the whole time, then eventually there's going to be a lot of strife that will just boil up over, and then it's just going to explode.
Someday.
Yeah. And so me being a stay-at-home mom, not saying that I'm not a hard worker. I'm a hard worker at keeping our house, clean and tending to it, tending to our children, tending to you. Taking care of everyone and everything and cooking and cleaning and all of that, which
on top of ministry.
Yeah, on top of ministry, which is what I want to do. So that's the hard worker in my sense, but also, since I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, I had to marry someone who would be a hard worker in the sense of providing financially for our family. And that, of course, that's you. And so you're a hard worker in the sense of bringing in the income and to provide for our family in that sense as well. And so for me, one of the many values for me in looking in a spouse before we got married was just making sure that, you're a hard worker, because I think it's just so unfair. And I know of so many people, and I know that he knows as well, of just couples who have gotten married and the husband is lazy, plays video games 24/7, and the wife is outside mowing the grass.
Yeah, he's still a boy.
Yeah. Or, or vice versa. The husband's doing all the work, and the wife just thinks she's
blowing his money.
Yeah, she can just go spend all of his money and think life is just fine. When, I think there has to be a balance in that. So, for me, it would be a hard worker.
Yeah, and a hard worker beyond just finances. Like, they can be a hard worker and bringing in the finances, but then at home, they get at home from work and they just sit down and don't want to parent, don't want to mow the grass, don't want to do stuff around the house. So it's not just, okay, I'm going to be a hard worker on the job, come home, and I'm stopping being a hard worker because I've been working all day. Yeah. But also, like, it's not only being a hard worker, but it's also doing whatever it takes to provide.
Yeah.
There was a time in our life, just complete transparency, where, I was in between jobs. Before we became pastors. This was a while ago, and I was at the point to where, all right, I'm willing to work any job, obviously, that wouldn't prevent me putting my beliefs on the side or my morals on the side to provide for the family, to where it was like, if it's DoorDash until there's a job, if it's delivering pizzas, working 2 part-time jobs, one in the morning, one in the evening, I was like, I'm okay with that. Yeah. I'm a hard worker, and also it's understanding you got to do whatever needs done to pay the bills and to do that. And luckily, that seasons move on, and we're living on the other side of that, and God's just been so faithful. But that's just a little bit of our testimony. But the last part, my number 5 is sacrificial.
That's a good one.
Both people have to be willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
One, and I'm not just talking about finances, that's the first thing, but of course finances, but there's days that I've got to sacrifice what I want because she needs tended to, and there's days that she's got to sacrifice what I want or what she wants because I need attended to, or whatever the case may be. But you have to be sacrificial. Have to be, like, there may be, from guys' term, there may be, like, this Thursday, tomorrow night is opening night of NFL football. And I don't want to do anything else but to sit right here on this couch tomorrow night and watch football. But let's say tomorrow night comes around and I want to do that, but she's not feeling well, or something's like that. I can't be like, well, football's on, I'll see you later.
Yeah,
no, I've got to sacrifice what I want in that moment to tend to what's more important. And vice versa. There may be a day where she wants to go get her nails done or her hair done, or she just wants to go and be with the girls and do whatever they do. And, there's a day where it's like, hey, I could really use a day of rest. Could you just be with Easton for a couple hours? And she may have to be like, yeah, I need to tend to what's more important in that moment. So both people have to be willing to sacrifice. And that, now, let me say this. That doesn't mean one person's always sacrificing and the other's not.
Yes.
Both have to sacrifice. It's not like, well, you've got to sacrifice, but you always get to do what you want, and your spouse never gets to do what they want under the umbrella of sacrificing. That's not it. Both have to sacrifice 50-50. And it's not like you keep a tally, just to be common sense. But I can't stress that enough. Not just sacrificial, but it has to be even across the board. And you can't use the sacrificial term to, I get to do whatever I want because you need to sacrifice. It's not that.
Yeah, I think when when you talk about sacrificing, when you were giving the examples, I just thought of, we're sacrificing, but we're also serving each other.
Yeah,
in that
that's
sacrifice.
really good.
So, like you said, tomorrow night is football, and
Praise the Lord.
and I get really sick that night, tomorrow night, and you have to sacrifice, what you wanted, and here you are serving me.
Yeah.
Because that's what
good.
you truly are, is,
Yeah.
You're taking that sacrifice and you're shifting it to serve. And so I also think, you have to have that mindset of, yes, I'm sacrificing what I want for me, but I have to serve him.
Yeah.
He's my husband, and I need to serve him. Now that, again, like he said, that's not every single thing that you want to do. You have to sacrifice to tend to your husband or to tend to your wife.
No.
We're not sitting here controlling, guilt tripping, being petty about anything.
No.
We are not saying that at all. But when it comes to the sense of, your spouse is sick and you want to go leave and have a girls' day, I'm sorry, but the girls can wait.
Yeah.
And so it's just also just serving. And I think that the Lord will reward that.
Yeah, he'll bless and honor that.
Yes, the Lord will bless that completely. So.
Yeah, so sacrifice is a big thing,
Mm-hmm.
But please, for the sake of your marriage, don't use that as an abuse tactic where
I get to be manipulative.
Yeah, where I get to do whatever I want.
Yeah.
And you need to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do, is we sacrifice. That's not it. So both parties have to be able to be sacrificial. So you run through your 5 real quick, just bullet point, and then I'll run through my 5. So go ahead.
So it's to, of course, love the Lord first and put him first. And to, become best friends, have the same values, be a good parent, and to be a hard worker.
Absolutely. And so my 5 are, of course, God first. You have to be compatible with each other. Shared responsibility, proven trust, and you have to be sacrificial.
Yeah.
So I guess you could kind of say that we shared 10 things because we each shared 5.
Yeah.
But for me, 5, her 5. But hopefully that this helps somebody out there, whether you're dating, engaged, or maybe you're not even dating, but you want to know what to look for to date. This will help you as well. So what I want you to do before you get off here, don't get off right now, make sure you subscribe to the channel and then hit the bell notification. That way anytime we put up great content, encouraging podcasts like this, things that will help you in your walk with the Lord or just, in life in general, you'll be the first to get notified. So we want to say thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you got something from today. Be sure to share the broadcast. Listen, if you've got friends that are dating or you've got friends that are in the engagement process or maybe thinking about dating, share it and let them know, hey, here's something that I learned. I'd like for you to learn this as well. And the more people that can see this, the more people that it'll help. So thank you all for tuning in. God bless, and we'll see you next episode.